Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode in our WCW What If series in TEW 2020. I, of course, am CR Daredevil, and I am, uh, I'm here. I'm here. For those who've been following me over on X, or Twitter, you know, which is what I really call it, you will have known that I'm currently on some strong pain meds, but we're here. And we're doing this on a Sunday instead of a Monday, as opposed to normal, because of a of something going on tomorrow. That it's for those who aren't aware. If you're watching this in real time, for those who aren't aware, um, there's a kind of a growing. I mean, I'm not going to get super into political about stuff, but there's a kind of a growing um, hope for a kind of a strike, so to speak, when it comes to the whole Israel Palestine thing, and people, you know, how they shouldn't be doing anything tomorrow, and kind of going towards a lot of content creators and streamers are trying to get into it. So I am choosing to join the cause to stand up for Palestine because that whole thing is just ridiculous. So we're doing this video today, and then you won't be getting anything from me on the channel tomorrow. Won't be getting anything from me, period, tomorrow, as I will be joining in with that strike. Wanting to show my solidarity of the whole thing because it's an ongoing thing. I'm not gonna get super into it, but we have a episode of Nitro to get through here today, with some big news that we will be kind of opening up the show with. So we open up in front of a sold out a sold out pit. 18,000 people selling out the arena. We open up with a video from Eric Bischoff, who's sitting in his office alone. It says that people within World Championship Wrestling refuse to acknowledge that the company needs to come into a new era in wrestling. The wrestling world is becoming less black and white and more of a gray area. People are cheering for bad guys and hating on the supposed good guys. People are supporting the NWO as they can, as it's been seen by the ever-growing amount of shirts and signs in the arenas week after week. And they're showing their disdain for the old timers like Roddy Piper and Ric Flair and so many others like that. So he's been in discussion with the board of directors, and he's been given an opportunity to prove that WCW needs to be brought forward into the modern era of wrestling. So starting in 1998, the very first week of 1998, in fact, so 3 weeks from now, we will see the start of a new era in WCW. The era of Thunder, as in WCW Thunder, a second weekly show that will be happening on Friday nights, and one that people who don't want to be stuck in the 80s will be given opportunities to shine on. After all, nostalgia only lasts so long. It's time for a new era in WCW. So there you go. It is official that Thunder will be a weekly show heading forward on Friday nights. Recording wise, I still haven't figured out exactly what I'm going to do for it. I have a couple plans in mind. One would involve obviously making the WCW videos every week longer, to have both of those on there. One would be doing separate videos on Fridays for Thunder. And there's a few other options I have in mind. I've got a few weeks to kind of think about it, so we'll see what happens. There's not going to be a brand split or anything like that, despite the way that Bischoff was kind of talking about it there. It's going to be more kind of like a soft brand split. Like you're going to see kind of some people who might be used more on Nitro and on Thunder versus, like a full on, like, can't use them at all kind of thing. Kind of similar to Dynamite and Collision for AEW, where you see a lot of the same people on Collision that and never really see them on Dynamite kind of thing, and vice versa. So that's kind of the idea. Is that both will be A shows, both will be shows that anybody can work on, but you're going to see certain people are going to appear more on one show versus the other show kind of thing. So that'll be what we're going to be doing for heading forward in 1998. So that's exciting. We'll have to kind of see how that ends up kind of changing things up for WCW. Then we have our opening contest here on Nitro that sees that 6-man tag team matchup with Too Cold Scorpio, Ron Simmons, and Rocky Maivia getting the victory over Team Canada's Lance Storm, Christian Cage, and Sexton Hardcastle 953. With Scorpio pinned Hardcastle with the disc that don't miss, that means that he has a shot at the television championship at Starrcade officially now. 73 rating for the match, 82 from Scorpio. My God, he looked good out there. 70 from Simmons, 68 from Lance Storm, 45 from Rocky Maivia, 47 from Christian Cage, and 45 from Sexton Hardcastle. 73 rating for the match itself. Good to see. But there you go. So now it's official. Lance Storm versus Too Cold Scorpio at Starrcade for the WCW World Television Championship. And afterwards, just a bit of a celebration from Scorpio with Rocky Maivia and Ron Simmons, while Team Canada kind of heads to the back, and kind of a little bit of a jawing back and forth between Lance Storm and Scorpio ahead of that matchup. So there you are, official for Starrcade. On top of the 2 matches we already have official for Starrcade, which is, of course, the non-sanctioned match between Booker T and Dustin Rhodes, and, of course, the WCW World Heavyweight Championship matchup, where Steve Austin is defending against the former champion Brian Pillman. We now have this television championship match happening on that show as well. Then after that, we have a brawl happening backstage between Samu and Meng. Those two are just brawling with each other. Of course, Samu and Rikishi Fatu have been trying to help out Mark Merrow in his battle against the Flock recently. And so it turns out that those two are brawling backstage, and officials have to try to break those two up. It's 70 rating, advances the storyline there. Kind of ahead of potential something between those two. We'll have to see what ends up happening there. Then, alright, well, this is weird. I expected that to be better. We have Gene Okerlund standing by on the stage, and he introduces a new member to WCW's roster, none other than Jeff Jarrett. Jeff Jarrett comes out and just kind of talks about, he gets asked about why he's here in WCW, and Jarrett basically just kind of makes it short and sweet by saying that he doesn't have to answer Okerlund's damn questions. He doesn't have to answer anybody's damn questions. He's here because and he pauses and he says, you know what, I'm not going to give you a damn answer. You can find out later on. And he walks off. So Jeff Jarrett is here in WCW now. Debuts a sleazeball gimmick, which gets an adequate rating. Kind of his late 90s gimmick in WWF, if you think about it there. Both men did not do well without a script to follow, so that's kind of weird. But got a 68 for his debut, as we'll have to see what he's here to do in WCW. Then we have Bam Bam Bigelow and The Giant have a quick squash match over Chris Harris and James Storm in 244 when Bigelow pinned James Storm with a powerbomb. 51 rating, actually cooled the crowd a little. Kind of weird. Giant shown in this match. I'm not sure why this lack of associated storyline, I guess, probably would have helped to advance the storyline going on, but that's fine. But this was essentially just Bam Bam Bigelow and the Giant getting a quick squash victory. Chris Harris and James Storm, not officially AMW at this point, but they are in our developmental company. So we brought them up for this match just to kind of be squashed. But Harris with a 41 and Storm with a 38, so they're getting there. But 90 from the Giant, 84 from Bam Bam Bigelow. Again, just squash match here. Afterwards, we get an 85 rating for a promo as Percy Pringle is standing by with the Giant and Bigelow talking about how they have heard that it is official from Roddy Piper that it will be the Giant and Bam Bam Bigelow versus Sting and Barry Windham at Starrcade for the WCW World Tag Team titles, and that Giant and Bam Bam Bigelow will go and, just like they squashed these kids here tonight, they will squash Sting and Barry Windham at Starrcade and become the new WCW World Tag Team Champions. 85 rating here, as another match is made official for Starrcade, which is 3 weeks away. Right? Yeah, 3 weeks away. Then after that, Mayumi Ozaki is backstage with Gene Okerlund. Okerlund asks about the issues with Medusa lately. And before she's able to really say too much, Medusa shows up and says, "Hey, I want to have a match with you, 1-on-1, me and you. I'm tired of this attacks. I'm tired of this bullshit going on. I want you in the ring, 1-on-1." And Ozaki's like, "Well, I don't know what to tell you. I'm not gonna have a match with you. You're not worth my time." Medusa's like, "What the hell are you talking about?" And Ozaki's like, "I have to prepare for my match at Starrcade because it is official. I'm getting the shot that I earned on Nitro a couple weeks ago. I'm getting that shot at Starrcade. Me and Megumi Kudo for the WCW Women's World Championship." Medusa seems very frustrated about this announcement and says that fine. She kind of said, she's like, "Fine. One way or another, though, I'm going to get my hands on you, and I will make you pay for what you've done." And before she walks off, 68 rating here. Guarantee for the storyline, so that's good. But yeah, so it is another official match for Starrcade. It is Mayumi Ozaki and Megumi Kudo for the WCW Women's World Championship at Starrcade, which should be a very good matchup there. Then we have an 84 rated matchup here, or segment here. Jericho didn't do well without script fault. Why is everybody not being able to improv this week? Jericho's in the ring. He talks about the travesty existing within this company right now. He can't believe how just absolutely ridiculous this is. It is a few weeks out from Starrcade, and the man responsible for this company being the best company in the world right now doesn't even have a match on the card. Chris Jericho is WCW. He's the greatest, and he deserves a match on the biggest show of the year. So he says, if any of those big name stars wants to come out from the back and have a match with me at Starrcade, then let's go. And this brings out Alex Wright, which Jericho just looks kind of in fake shock at, and then just starts busting up laughing. Wright gets in the ring and says he's been looking for an opportunity to prove himself around here, and so he is accepting the open challenge. So officially it's going to be Chris Jericho versus Alex Wright at Starrcade. Jericho says that Wright is nowhere near his league, and he will not waste his time at Starrcade on a loser like Alex Wright. Okay, so maybe it's not officially a match between those two at Starrcade. Alex Wright then shrugs his shoulders, and then goes and hits Jericho in the head with a microphone, knocking him down to the canvas. So the crowd pops with this as Alex Wright leaves, soaking in the cheers. Jericho kind of slowly comes to, staggered a little bit before he kind of realizes what happened. He's really pissed about what happened. He's throwing a fit in the ring. Gets an 84 rating here. Officially it is Alex Wright versus Chris Jericho at Starrcade. I just, we're teasing the idea that unofficially it might not be, since Jericho doesn't want to waste his time on him, apparently. But there you go. So I figured this should be a pretty good matchup. I know it's going to be kind of an out of nowhere, quick little story, but the idea being that Jericho continues to feel like he's been underutilized here in this company, and Alex Wright has been looking for opportunities, but hasn't really had a lot presented to him lately, although he did, have the Cruiserweight Championship, which he lost to Jerry Lynn, and he had a shot at the TV title that he couldn't take away from Lance Storm, but the idea being that he's kind of looking to, to kind of keep proving himself, and so he feels like a match against Chris Jericho will help prove himself, so there you go. Then we have another 84 rated segment, this time Dean Malenko, unable to improvise. As Eddie Guerrero seen warming up backstage for the main event, it is going to be a 6-man tag team matchup in the main event here tonight. We'll find out who their opponents are here in a second. When Chris Benoit and Dean Malenko show up, immediately Guerrero steps up to Benoit and gets face to face with him. Of course, Guerrero having issues with the Horsemen, having a lot of issues with them, refusing to coexist with them right now, so to speak. Malenko forces his way in between them, though, and says that they need to work together tonight. If Eddie has beef with the Horsemen, it needs to be put on hold, because tonight they have to take on the New World Order, which is going to actually be Paul Levesque, Steven Regal, and Bret Hart. He says, and they need to be able to work together to do so. Guerrero says that he'll work together long enough to get the victory, then he's leaving. No matter what kind of attack happens, he's going back to the backstage area. He refuses to celebrate with Chris Benoit. Malenko reminds Guerrero that he was hit from behind by Regal's United States Championship last week at the end of Nitro, And Eddie says that's the only reason that he's going through with this matchup. Eddie then walks off as Malenko and Benoit watch on. So Eddie Guerrero only teaming up with Malenko and Benoit tonight, apparently just because he wants some revenge on Steven Regal, but refusing to want to celebrate with them or really be allied with them or anything like that. He's just kind of a one-night team up kind of thing, and that's it. We get an 87 rating here as Cactus Jack's on the stage with Gene Okerlund, talking about Starrcade and how he doesn't seem to be on the card right now himself either. Says that 1997 was one hell of a year for him. He had a couple shots at the WCW World Heavyweight Championship and unfortunately came up just short. He had a lot of high-profile matches. He had a feud with the Giant that seemed to go forever, all that kind of stuff. He says he wants to make sure he keeps his momentum heading into 1998, but it looks like it's out of his hands when it comes to whether he has a match on Starrcade. It's up to those who book the show. It's up to them it's up to those who in charge, who put together matches and all that kind of stuff. But as he turns to leave, though, he gets a guitar smashed over his head by Jeff Jarrett, who's standing there with a smirk on his face before posing to a chorus of boos. 87 rating here. Jeff Jarrett was very underwhelming, apparently. But, yeah. So, Jeff Jarrett refused to tell us why he was here in WCW earlier, but apparently at least one of the reasons, whether it's the reason, whether it's a reason, but at least seemingly a reason why he's here is because he wanted to attack Cactus Jack because he just smashed a guitar over his head. We'll have to see what ends up happening with that. Then we have a 67 rated matchup that sees Sean Waltman defeat Jushin Thunder Liger in 11:28 by pinfall following interference from Jerry Lynn. 69 from Waltman, who was really off his game, which sucks. 61 from Liger. Lost for the Cruiserweight title storyline, which really sucks as well. But they have pretty good chemistry with each other, so it lifted the matchup. But this, of course, was the match that Jushin Thunder Liger needed to win in order to get a shot at the Cruiserweight Championship around Jerry Lynn's waist. And Liger, unfortunately, did not win. Afterwards, though, Liger gets beaten down by Jerry Lynn and Sean Waltman. But this brings out Roddy Piper. Piper comes out with security who are able to get Lynn and Waltman pulled off of Liger. Piper then says that Lynn may think he's so clever, making sure that Waltman won this matchup. However, Lynn doesn't make title matches around here. Piper does. And so as Starrcade, it's going to be Jushin Thunder Liger versus Jerry Lynn for the WCW Cruiserweight Championship. Lynn and Waltman are like, what the hell? Like, this is bullshit. And Piper then says if anyone from the NWO interferes in that match, then they will be suspended for a year, which the crowd goes crazy for. 81 rating here. Gained heat for the Cruiserweight storyline. Lost heat for the defending one because of Waltman and Piper being involved in the segment, but that's fine. So there you go. Another match official for Starrcade. Jerry Lynn versus Jushin Thunder Liger for the WCW Cruiserweight Championship. We'll have to see how that ends up playing out. Then after that, 89 rating here, as Dustin Rhodes has a sit-down interview with Gene Okerlund. Kind of talks about how he was successful at World War III, winning that guaranteed world title match at any point in time over the next almost, like 11 and a half months at this point now. And says that he is not going to reveal when he's going to cash that in, because he's going to wait until no one expects it, and then he's going to make it happen. And talks about Steve Austin a little bit. Says that Austin is a hell of a fighter, but Dustin Rhodes knows he can beat Steve Austin and knows he could easily take that world championship from him at any point in time. He then kind of briefly talks about the world title matchup happening at Starrcade, saying that he doesn't really care which one of the two win because he knows he can beat both of them, and that it doesn't really matter. He has no prediction on who's going to win that matchup because he doesn't really care. He knows he can beat both of them. He doesn't really care about either one of them. He knows that they're good competitors, but he doesn't really care. He knows that he is better than both of them. In fact, he's better than everyone here in WCW, including that loser Booker T, who's going to get his ass kicked at Starrcade in the unsanctioned match that is between the two of them, where he will make Booker T finally realize that he is below Dustin Rhodes, that he is nothing, and that Dustin Rhodes will finally be able to move on without having to watch over his shoulder all the time from Booker T. 89 rated segment here. Then we get a 100 rated segment here as Steve Austin is backstage by himself, talking about being the new WCW World Heavyweight Champion, talking about being a fighting champion, wanting to defend the title against anyone and everyone. Not ending up with a match here this week, which he's kind of disappointed by, but he says that he is still looking for he's still wanting to have that fight. Kind of talks briefly about WCW Thunder being announced and says that he doesn't really have an issue with Piper and Flair, but he also doesn't really have, outside of the NWO thing, he also doesn't really have an issue with what Bischoff was saying. He wants to be the face that brings WCW into this modern era, as Bischoff was referring to, and so he doesn't really care if he's on, one show, both shows. As the world champion, he's going to be on every single time that he can be to represent this company very successfully. He talks about how what seems like it'll be his first title defense will be at Starrcade against Brian Pillman. Kind of talks about how the match will be one hell of a contest and a challenge. He talks about being friends with Pillman for years, the two being tag team partners, being kind of where they were in the wrestling world and where they've gotten to now. And he says that in a way it's very fitting that they're facing each other here at Starrcade for the WCW World Heavyweight Championship, because at one point in time they were never seen to be top stars. They were never seen to be potentially the two top stars in a company, and now here they are getting ready to close out 1997 in WCW in the main event of Starrcade for the WCW World Heavyweight Championship. And Austin says as much respect as he has for Pillman, though, this championship is staying with him. It's staying with Austin, and then this is going to be the first title defense of many to come for him. 100 rated segment. Very good stuff there for Austin, as he is, showing a lot of respect for Pillman, but he is focused and ready to head into 1998 as the champion. Then the main event gets an 85 rating, as an exceptional matchup. Dean Malenko, Chris Benoit, and Eddie Guerrero defeat Bret Hart, Steven Regal, and Paul Levesque in 1304. When Guerrero pinned Paul Levesque with a frog splash, 73 from Levesque, 81 from Regal, who was working through an injury, 96 from Bret Hart, 86 from Guerrero, who was working through his injury, 93 from Benoit, and 94 from Dean Malenko. Well, I'll see for the U.S. title storyline, but to be fair, that storyline was like at a 90, like a 95 or 94 or something like that anyway, so it's fine. Advancing the defending WCW storyline. So there you go. Malenko, Benoit, and Guerrero getting the victory over the New World Order here in a big time matchup. As it's very rare that Bret Hart ever loses, especially on Nitro. And so for him to take a loss here, granted he wasn't the one pinned, but for him to take a loss here is a pretty big thing. But it gets an 85 rating, which is good to see there. Afterwards, Benoit and Malenko are celebrating the victory, but Guerrero is already out of the ring, heading to the back. Ric Flair comes out from the back to celebrate with Benoit and Malenko, but does have a bit of a stare down with Eddie Guerrero first. As commentators kind of talk about the issues between the two, as Flair does eventually end up walking down to the ring, raising Benoit and Malenko's hands in victory, while also kind of looking back at the stage where Guerrero has kind of stopped and turned around to look back at the three in the ring now to end at Nitro here. So 85 rating, as it seems like there's still some tension there between Flair and Guerrero. And we'll have to see where things end up heading forward. Show itself gets a 90 rating. I'll take that. Increase our popularity in 12 regions. Pretty good stuff there. Had some segments that didn't do so hot, but I feel like we kind of brought it back around with the stuff towards the end, especially the promo from our champion, Steve Austin. So there you go. Good to see stuff there happening. Yeah. A lot of title matches, or a lot of matches made for Starrcade. The big news with WCW Thunder becoming a thing. And we'll have to kind of see where things end up happening, what ends up happening with everything. I do want to point out something that is going to be kind of funny to talk about here. So, first things first. Saturday night happened. A lot of promos happened. DDP had a promo. RVD had a promo. Tomoko Miyaguchi had a promo. Chris Canyon and Jeff Hardy teamed up to defeat Kaz Hayashi and Silver King. Carrying Express had a promo. Big Bubba Rogers had a promo. Yoshiro Tajiri had a promo. And then the main event was Bull Nakano, Dynamite Kansai, and Nane Takahashi defeating Hikari Fukio, Mary Apache, and Miss Janeth. So big old 6-woman tag match there. I got a 52 rating, which wasn't too bad. So that was Saturday night. Ratings for the week. Raw actually had a 93 this week, which actually was better than our show. So I'll give them props there. But we had 9.4 million people watching. They had 3.8 million people watching. So we still beat them by a lot there when it came to viewership. We were just behind ER this week. Raw was main evented by Diesel and Scott Hall defeating Warrior and Shawn Michaels, which kind of makes sense. And then The Undertaker defeating Ahmed Johnson, which also kind of makes sense. So they had 2 really good matches on the show. So there's that. But the thing I wanted to kind of point out, as you'll see here, there's a bunch of people who got hired by OVW. So here's the thing. I didn't bring it up on screen before, but I chose that since it was a 3-strike, kind of 3-strike and you're out rule thing, I ended up choosing to let Randy Savage go. He popped for steroids originally. Then he popped for hard drugs. We sent him to rehab. He came back and he popped for hard drugs again. He's already declining physically. He's already, at the point stamina-wise where I can't put him in a singles matchup for more than like 5 minutes without him being exhausted. And so at this point, even though he was still super popular, I could have had him put over a bunch of people on his way out. I figured, you know what, whatever. He's only got a few months left on his contract anyway. Let's just let him go. So we let him go, right? We let him go. So then something weird happened in the game. So OVW, Ohio Valley Wrestling, came about in this game in August, so a few months ago. And this whole time has been sitting there with nobody in charge. I don't know why. I don't know why nobody took over the company yet. For some reason, it was just not set up to have anybody take over the company. I don't know why. And so a bunch of shows got canceled. It looked like they were basically on the verge of being done for. Until Randy Savage decided to take over as the CEO of OVW. So now in this world, Randy Savage is the CEO and booker of Ohio Valley Wrestling. And now they're starting to hire people. And we'll have to see what ends up happening there. As you saw, they opened up in 97, or in August of 97. And they had to cancel a bunch of shows because there was no wrestlers at all. Because nobody wanted to take over the company for whatever reason. And then Savage became the CEO and has hired a bunch of people. Okay. So apparently Randy Savage is now running OVW in this world. What a weird setup that this is. We'll have to see if that ends up leading to anything in the future. But that's going to do it for this episode. Thank you all for watching. Definitely appreciate it. For this series, we will see you next Monday for another episode on the road to Starrcade. And on the channel, we will see you not tomorrow, because we are going to be showing solidarity. We will see you on Tuesday for yet another video.